His response shocked everyone. It was a rainy Monday morning when Jordan Matthews, a recent college graduate, rushed across town for the most important interview of her life. She had prepared for weeks, practicing common questions, rehearsing her answers in the mirror, and even borrowing a pair of dress shoes from a friend. But as she stepped off the crowded bus and sprinted the last block toward the towering glass building, a speeding car drove past, splashing her from head to toe with muddy water. Soaked, cold, and humiliated, Jordan stood outside the entrance, staring at her reflection in the revolving door. Her blazer was stained, her slacks clung to her legs, and her carefully styled hair was drenched. For a moment she considered turning back. No one will take me seriously like this, she thought, but something inside her refused to quit. She had come too far. Trembling with nerves, Jordan walked into the lobby, gave her name to the receptionist, and waited, trying to ignore the glances of those around her. When the HR manager called her in, Jordan apologized immediately. "I understand if this affects your decision, but I didn't want to be late. This interview means everything to me." She was led into a sleek conference room where the CEO, Richard Hall, sat reviewing a resume. He looked up, his expression unreadable. Jordan braced herself for the worst, but instead of frowning or dismissing her, Mr. Hall stood up and extended his hand. "Thank you for showing up," he said sincerely. "Most people wouldn't have. Tell me your story." And so she did. Jordan spoke honestly about her background, growing up with little, being the first in her family to graduate college, juggling school and part-time jobs, and how she'd almost missed this opportunity because of one bad moment. She spoke with clarity, courage, and quiet strength. When she finished, there was a long pause. Then Mr. Hall smiled. "You're exactly the kind of person we need here. Someone who shows up, no matter what." By the end of the week, Jordan had a job offer, not just for the position she applied for, but a customized role in leadership development. Later, in a company-wide meeting, Mr. Hall shared the story. "We often judge people too quickly by what they wear, how they look, or how polished they seem. But grit, heart, and persistence, that's what builds companies." Jordan's muddy entrance became a reminder throughout the office. Never underestimate someone who shows up, no matter the mess. Changed everything. Jordan Matthews walked through the same doors again, this time not as a nervous interviewee, but as a new hire. She wore a crisp new blazer, a gift from her sister, and a quiet confidence that came from being seen for more than just appearances. But as she stepped into the office, she noticed the subtle glances. A few employees whispered, some smiling in recognition. Word of her muddy interview had clearly spread. One intern even said with a grin, "You're that Jordan, right?" She smiled politely, unsure how to feel. Being that Jordan meant her story had inspired some, but it also meant every move she made now came with a spotlight. She knew she would have to prove she was more than a story. She had to show she belonged. Assigned to a cross-departmental innovation project, Jordan quickly discovered two things. The company was filled with brilliant minds, and many of them underestimated her. One manager openly questioned why she had been fast-tracked into such a key role. Another casually referred to her as the CEO's experiment. Jordan didn't react, not outwardly. Instead, she listened more, observed deeper, and worked harder. She stayed late, asked thoughtful questions, and when a senior analyst fumbled a key presentation, Jordan stepped in, not to show off, but to help clarify the data, drawing from a college research project she had done on a similar model. The room went quiet, then the client nodded. "That's exactly what we needed," he said. After that, people began to notice her for more than the muddy suit story. Mr. Hall later pulled her aside. "You're making waves, Jordan, but remember, don't let their doubts define you. Let your work do the talking." Jordan nodded. "I plan to." And she did. Over the next 6 months, she helped streamline a new hiring initiative, led a mentorship program for interns from underserved communities, and presented at a leadership summit where she shared her journey. She wasn't just that woman from the muddy interview. She was Jordan Matthews, rising leader, trusted innovator, and proof that showing up is just the beginning. What you do once you're in the room is what truly matters. To be continued. Fire. Jordan's momentum at the company was undeniable. By the start of her second year, she had earned the title of Associate Director, the fastest promotion in that division's history. But success, as she was learning, brings its own kind of pressure. One chilly morning, Jordan was called into an emergency strategy meeting. The company's flagship client, a billion-dollar account, was threatening to walk. A product rollout had failed overseas, and whispers of mismanagement were surfacing. As the youngest leader in the room, Jordan didn't expect to be asked for input. But when the VP of Operations faltered in his explanation, all eyes turned to her. "Jordan, you worked on the risk assessment model last quarter. Any insight?" She glanced at the data on the screen. She saw the problem immediately, a misalignment between product timelines and regional regulations. "We didn't just miss a step," she said carefully. "We underestimated the local infrastructure completely. This wasn't a communication issue, it was a cultural one." There was silence. Then the CEO, Mr. Hall, leaned forward. "What would you do if you were running this account?" Jordan took a breath. This was the moment. "I'd get on a plane," she said. "I'd meet the local partners face to face, admit where we went wrong, listen to what they need, and rebuild trust the old-fashioned way, with presence, not just strategy slides." Within 48 hours, she was en route to São Paulo, Brazil, alone. What followed was one of the most difficult weeks of her life. Meetings where she was dismissed, questioned, and even mocked for being young and American. But she didn't waver. She listened. She apologized when needed, and she worked around the clock to realign timelines and show real commitment. By the end of the trip, the regional director shook her hand. "You've done more in 5 days than your predecessors did in a year. We'll stay." Back at headquarters, the news spread fast. Jordan Matthews had saved the account. She returned not just as a team player, but as a leader. At the next company town hall, Mr. Hall told the story once again. "She walked into her first interview in muddy clothes. She walked out of Brazil with a billion-dollar client still with us. That's not luck, that's resilience." Jordan stood at the back of the room, quietly, arms crossed. She didn't need applause. She had shown up, again, to be continued. "Would you like part cost everything?" Months after the Brazil win, Jordan Matthews had become a symbol, not just of resilience, but of transformation. She was now heading a new initiative focused on ethical growth in emerging markets, reporting directly to the executive board. People admired her rise, but few knew the emotional toll of carrying expectations, especially when your every move felt like it had to prove something. Then came the offer. An international venture capital group approached the company with a $250 million proposal to co-develop a series of smart factories in Southeast Asia. The board was thrilled. The deal promised innovation, expansion, and profits. There was just one problem. Jordan had seen the fine print. Buried in the third appendix of the legal brief was a clause about environmental and labor regulations. Loopholes, big ones. The kind that would allow subcontractors to bypass minimum wage requirements and dump industrial waste without consequence. Jordan flagged it immediately. "This could harm real communities," she said during the internal review. "We can't sign off on this and still claim to be a company that values ethical progress." Some executives rolled their eyes. Others praised her idealism, while privately urging her to be practical. The deal moved forward anyway, and Jordan faced a choice. She could stay quiet, protect her seat at the table, and let the board's decision stand, or she could go public internally, rally allies, and risk everything she had built. She chose the second. Jordan wrote a comprehensive report, complete with evidence, impact projections, and testimonies from regional contacts. She didn't blast it across the company. She sent it to one person, Richard Hall. 2 days later, the boardroom doors closed for an emergency meeting. By week's end, the company had paused the deal. Mr. Hall walked into her office. "You understand you just made some enemies at the top?" Jordan nodded. "I didn't come here to be liked. I came here to lead." He looked at her for a long moment, then said, "Then it's time we make that official. We're promoting you to Vice President of Global Integrity. I want your voice at every major table from now on." Jordan Matthews, once the girl who walked in with mud on her clothes, was now shaping the very foundation of corporate ethics. She didn't take shortcuts. She didn't take credit. She took responsibility. And that